Welcome to the Sales Lab.
You're an electrical engineer in college. Does somebody need to be a double E to move into this role, or what's the knowledge, what's the skill set that would really allow somebody to succeed in this realm?
I mean, I think it's listening is number one. I think that general trait, whether you're in sales or technical sales, is just critical. Just listening. I think being organized, being a very good note taker, also being able to ask clarification questions. I also think people have to invest in themselves, right? Once you start with a company, you have to know enough to be dangerous, and that's really the way I like to describe it. You don't have to know enough to build it and design it, but you need to be able to use the lingo. And I really talk about sales today, the ecosystem of sales. Today, if you sell in data center, you're going to talk about uptime, 24 by 7, know the industry organizations like, IEEEs, UL, NEC, if you're in the electrical bucket, looking at all of those industry organizations, standards, UL, IEC, those things, right? And then looking at really the terminology and lingo that happens. Trade shows, thought leadership events that you can attend. I think all of those things are really where your investment begins. So I think you can gain a lot without being a physicist or a design engineer. Now, I can help, design to a certain point, even myself, just because I haven't done it in so many years. The next level of engineers sit in most organizations ready to support them, or even product line managers. So I think that's what's different today. When I first started out, you didn't have as much of that. You really only had the design engineer. And, most of the organization was keep away from those guys because those guys are so busy designing our stuff. Only go to them as a last resort, right? Because they're busy doing stuff. And so I think that's what's different today. There's a lot of resources, tons of technical information on YouTube. Companies are putting out information, whatever industry you're looking at, whether it's oil and gas, industrial, be in that industry, understand the lingo and terminology, understand at the system level. You don't have to go all the way to the subsystem, but just understand the system level, at least what it is and how they use the jargon.
Okay. You described technical sales as communicating at the right level of complexity. How do you know what that right level of complexity is?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is, don't be outside yourself. If somebody says something you don't understand, you don't have to sit there and act like you know what it is. I think it's important for people to know where you're at, but let them know, hey, look, we've got the right level of people to support you. So I think it's your own skin. You have to be comfortable in your own skin. I also think initially when you start your career, I hope most companies do this, but there should be opportunities to do buddy calls. And that's really a on-the-job training in the field. And I encourage anybody that starts at a company, look, go through their training, do all the HR, get your laptop and all that other stuff, but network really well and ask them, hey, I'd love to do some calls with some of your senior people. That way I can sit in, see how they handle some of these questions, understand some of the systems, go see a few customers, see what their equipment, their network, their facilities look like, how they make the product. And that's really the best way to do it. I really wish more companies did that, where when they bring in technical salespeople, give them not just, you got the academic already. You're coming out of, great college like Texas A&M, right? And you're coming out with all this knowledge base. And then when you get out of that knowledge base, what do you do with it is how do I learn? What information do I need to invest in myself? And then you start with a company and in the onboarding, you got to be your own advocate and say, hey, look, I want to do this job really well. If you don't have a program where I can do some buddy calls with senior salespeople, some of your technical staff, how could I get that accomplished? I think that's really how you can really build your own comfort skin of where you can talk about something, where you can't, where you need to bring the right people in. I think it's all about learning what you can and can't do based on what you've invested in yourself.